And we're live. SFL podcast, the first, the draft special. Pretty excited. With me, I have the commish, Dylan Lowry, and one of the brand newcomers to the league, Will Hicks. How you guys
Hey, how's
doing
it going?
today?
We're doing great. I'm doing great.
All right. So for all the new guys that don't know me, my name is Guy. I am the manager of King McGee. I talk a lot of shit all the time. Gonna be talking shit about your team probably sometimes, and you know, yeah, I don't really do anything much. I'll let Dylan introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Dylan. I'm the commissioner of this league. We started it a long time ago, and I'm excited to keep going. But right now, I'm located in Virginia, which is probably one of the main reasons that we went remote. Usually, we did this in person for the first 3 years, and then the last year and this year we had to go remote because I moved to Virginia for law school. Um, I'm in charge of obviously the league. I'm in charge of the name I can't pronounce because I'm subject to the name change rule, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And yeah, so I also make graphs and a weekly video on top of school, so I don't sleep. That's all.
Well, I'm Will. New to the league. I'm excited. Been in a bunch of different fantasy leagues and used to people being out of my state. I've been in a league with a bunch of people from Cleveland and Michigan, and I went, in the top almost every year, and I felt collusion because they were all really good friends. So I said to myself, let me join something that I don't know anything about. None of these guys know, but enjoyed seeing some things last year from Betancourt and Gary, and that got me excited about it. And so I'm excited to be here and excited to be a part of the SFL.
Awesome, awesome. We're glad to have you, Will. It's nice to see somebody that comes in the first week and they already want to get on the podcast and start interacting with everybody. It's really cool, I think. So, Dylan, you go ahead and break down what do you think makes this league different from other leagues?
Yeah, so honestly, when we created the SFL, we just wanted a league where we could all watch the games together. That was literally the premise of the league. We just wanted to hang out and not have a league where it was set it and forget it, and then you look at your scores, maybe text somebody, and that's it. We wanted it to be a week-long experience. And so what makes this league different, I think, is that we don't require people to create content, if you will. We just want people to be engaged in the league. We just want people to care. And so like that evolved into me making weekly charts, power rankings, roster strength, just to give us something to talk about. And that's really what I wanted, is just to have something to talk about. Then I made the SFL record book just to keep a history of our league going. I made that, I think, in the third year. If you guys haven't checked that out, please do. It's like my baby project of the league. Keeps track of everything from how many trades you've made, who you've traded with. Everybody in the league has their own page that you can go and look and see your history of your team, from your team names to how many points you score, your record against people. There's a whole tab of head-to-head records, which is really cool. There's a record book, so you can, and I'm probably annoying in the group me every Sunday, because what I do is I keep everybody updated if there's a record about to be broken. I'm always like, this tight end is about to break the single,
Mhm.
SFL record. And I get excited about that, even though he's not even on my team. Um, but this is my only league. I don't play any other league. This is the only one, so I can focus my whole attention, and it makes my Sundays a little more enjoyable because, like I said, I want it to be a week-long experience. And if I were to play this league and others with how much effort and energy I put into this, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. So I go all in. So basically, what makes this league different is it's a week-long experience. We don't stop. So apart from my graphs and my record book, I make a weekly video called the Weekly Beatdown, which, as you'll learn if you're new, there's a curse, because ever since I started making this video, I lose every single week.
You have
And
not won. You have
no,
not
I haven't
won
won
a 1 week.
ever. So I say, fuck a curse. I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm making these videos. And then so that evolved. And now we have Robert making a weekly drunk rant video. And by the way, each of our content, so you're not like overwhelmed, is kind of different. This is our informative. Guy's podcast is very informative, goes into a deep dive with different guests and stuff. Robert's drunken rant video is just whatever the hell he wants to drunkenly talk about, which is hilarious. For me, the beatdown is just focused on my opponent. That's it. And so like,
and it's a giant meme.
Yeah, and so I just go in on my opponent. I like throw in different videos from different sources to like back up what I'm saying. It's pretty fun.
It is.
But
fun.
anyway,
it's hilarious.
What makes this league different is it's week long, year long, because we do like vote proposals. As you guys can see, we only had 6 proposals this year. I think COVID had a lot to do with our like really thinking about how we wanted to attack the season differently.
I think it's because like we didn't know if there was gonna be a season or not, so we were kind of like not as active during the off season as we normally are.
Exactly. So if you go to the changes tab on the record book, you'll see last year we had so many changes just because we had so many proposals. And the league is evolving year to year, depending on what we see, what we like, what we don't like. And it's all through voting. So I think we've established a really cool democratic system. And it's just engaging. And I think that's what makes this league different. And I like the people. I'm a stickler, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. I was the one that voted no on the expansion, just because, and I'm cool with it. And I'm so happy Will's here. I'm so happy Victor's here. But the reason I voted no is because I want to vet people hardcore. I want to know that they're going to enjoy their time here. They're going to input stuff. They're going to, at least enjoy the content and be here for the long haul. And so nothing against the new people. Obviously, I just wanted to vet you guys, and I didn't get the chance to, and that's okay because it was 7-1 vote. Welcome to the league, and I hope you guys are in it for the long haul. But that's the reason I voted no. But yeah, that's pretty much the league in a nutshell.
Yeah. And to go on with what is different is our scoring. Our scoring is pretty different from other leagues. I mean, it's not drastically different, but it is pretty different. I think I am partially to blame for that, or maybe all to blame for that.
I was gonna say what?
I love games, board games, video games. I make a living playing poker. So I am a very into game theory, and for me, fantasy football has been pretty outdated. Like at least the standard rules has been pretty outdated. If you were to look at what makes a good fantasy football team in standard rules, it's basically did they get really good running backs, and that is mostly your team. And then after the running backs is did you get good wide receivers? And like that's that, right? So the whole point of like the different scoring rules for me is to try to make it so the players are all around, you could, if this wasn't an auction league, if it was like an actual drafting league, you could possibly see in the top 5 picks a quarterback picked, a tight end picked, a wide receiver picked, right? Like all those 3 positions could all be picked in the top 5. And you can see that even in our auction. We had a tight end go for $60. We had quarterbacks go for over $50. Like, I think that is making it so all the positions are kind of feel special. And if you guys don't like the rules or if something different, that's what Dylan was talking about, how we vote on it. You come in, you propose it, think of a logical way to fix certain things, and then we'll talk about it. We'll propose it, and we'll vote on it for next year.
Yep. As you can see, like what Guy's saying, the PPR, the PPR was nominated twice this year, both by Betancourt, because, if you guys didn't know, our tight ends score a full point per reception, wide receivers score 0.5 points per reception, and running backs score 0.25 points per reception. Now, we had 2 proposals this year. One to make it flat 1 point. So you're like those, every other league that does 1 point per reception for every position, or half a point per reception. He just wanted it to be, blanket, but they didn't pass. So again, he can bring that up next season.
Next year, yeah.
And so just keep trying to bring that up. Because for example, when we started voting, I think in season 2 or 3, I wanted an auction draft from the beginning, and it got voted against twice. It didn't come in until season 4 when it finally passed. So it's just one of those things where if you want something changed, just keep proposing, get people on your side, get those votes. And,
come on the podcast, come show.
Yeah, go on the podcast and spill. Like I was hardcore. I was lobbying hard for auction for at least 2 years to get it here. So
And it's different too. Like if you're just like trying to talk to people on GroupMe, and it's kind of hard to get your thoughts out on like a giant text message. If you come on the podcast and you have 5 minutes to just like actually get your mind junk into words, and hopefully in a coherent way that people understand why you're trying to think that way, it helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've never done an auction league as far as competitive. You know, I've done them mock, I've done them just to see what they look like, and you know, going through the process mock wise before the draft and just seeing what it was, because I thought it was more just, you know, saving money, keeping money, spending money, but you really see the strategy at the end, because you know, obviously you go, especially this draft, people went huge. Betancourt spilled everything out early,
Yep.
and then at the end he had nothing that he could do. You know,
Yep.
he was basically, you know, screwed in that way. But like, you know, the ability to see, hey, where you can spend that money correctly and get those steals. You know, for me personally, like I know that I missed on one big running back that I regret on, that I should have
Same.
spent the money.
Same.
And so that has hurt my team in that way. But I know that I got better in the receiver core, that I feel comfortable that I could make a trade later on week 2, hopefully week 1. I've already proposed one. It got denounced as soon as I sent it. But yeah, you know, I sent it to Victor. I didn't think he'd take it.
I will say, I think auction drafts, and this I'm having like flashbacks of 2 years ago when I would say exactly these things to get us to vote on it. Auction drafts allow us to trade more, because if you're doing serpentine drafts, everybody at the end of the draft has a pretty equal team. We all had equal opportunities to draft somebody in the first round, in the second round, and the third round. So nobody really wants to trade because everybody's pretty even. But if you're an auction, you can strategize, like Betancourt, for example. He spent so much money on guys that are all first round picks in a serpentine draft. Now he can ship those as a trade and get maybe 3 guys in the second round that would have been drafted. So you can almost front load like he did and turn it into assets, or say, guys, I want a team, maybe half a team full of first rounds that you could never do in a serpentine, and experiment and see if that works.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what
I think it's way more strategy based in an auction, because you are creating the team that you want, not just saying I'm the 6th round, so obviously I have to take this guy because he's the 6th best player.
Yeah.
And then you're just stuck. Like your season is almost determined by your draft order. This is determined by your skill.
Not only skill, but like your personal value of the player. Like, you know what I mean? Like you actually have to put your resources and try to split it amongst your team, and like put your personal value on this guy, you know? I think it's definitely the most skill-based way to draft, without a doubt.
I've also said that at the end of the year, when you look back and you're thinking about your team, you're like, okay, my first round pick, it had to be a first round pick. If it was a bust, it was a bust. Oh, well, he was a first rounder. I had to draft him. But now we can say, I spent $2 on a guy that's the league leader in blank, blank, blank. You spend 50 on a guy that did nothing. You know, that's a lot of shit talking points, and that's what we're all about.
Yes, it is. All right. Hey, Dylan. So here we're looking at the new teams. Victor's hasn't renamed this team yet, right?
Yes.
Holden
Which
has.
I'm mad, because now the record book has V. Morales' team.
I know. We got to get him to change his name. And is Holden sticking with Elderly Gangbang?
Yeah, I actually texted him. I texted him not too long ago. I'm like, are you sticking with that name? You know you can change it. You made the playoffs somehow. And he said, you know what? I want to keep it. It's a good name. And
Wow.
Let's be real. It's the lazy way out. Like, just, you don't have to be creative and think of something new.
True.
But honestly, it fits him.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it.
Yeah. So, and I guess Sean felt like he wasted $100 because he changed his team to a waste of $100. I guess he's not too happy about his draft. So let's go ahead and go into the draft, since we're talking about it. Let me actually before we go into
one last point on the draft, just because this is for Kyle. Kyle, if you're listening, this is for you. I have a project for you. Guy and I were talking about this before the pod went live. this would be so sick. If you could somehow, with your guru wisdom of graphs and infographics and how to present information way better than I ever could, if you could somehow document how much everybody spent on players, or like come up with like running backs and like how much actually everybody spent on them, and then at the end of the year have what their production value was, so we can see like what the correlation is between like a good spending of $40 versus a bad spending of $40. Like, what's the magic number? Is it 2.5 times your value, like daily fantasy sports, where you're trying to figure out, you know, $1,000 player gets X amount of points, and that's a good spending of that money? I want more data about our values of players, and if we're just all wrong. But that'd be fun to think about.
I was thinking like an easy way to do it would just be like put the players in, how much they spent, and how much dollars were spent on that player, how many points they were scored, and then you can have a mathematical formula to show points per dollar spent, you know, and then you can look at the players and compare them that way. I'm like, oh man, this guy gave us 10 points for every dollar, like what a steal or something like that, you know?
Yeah. There's got to be some way, and Kyle is the man to do it. So
Yeah, I agree. I think Kyle's definitely the way to do it. And before we go to the draft, let's talk about real quick what changed this year from last year. So what passed as our rule change was the kick distance bonus. So last year you got basically zero point 0.1 points per yard um, for per yard that kick distance after the 33-yard mark. We changed that this year that it is 0.2 points per yard starting at the 30. So if it's a 35-yard field goal, you get 4 points. If it's a 40-yard field goal, you get 5 points, so on and so forth. You get 1 point for every 5 yards. So now the extra point buff has actually been nerfed, but not by losing points, but it has been nerfed by making longer kicks count for more points. So it's less of the percentage of the kicker's points total is on the extra points. The long kicks will matter. And when you think about it,
valuing their personal skill rather than the offense's skill to get touchdowns.
Yeah. And when you think about it, like, it kind of makes sense. Like, kickers don't really have a way to get touchdowns, right? But think about when a kicker scores like a 55-yard field goal, right? That's as much as a touchdown as you can get, right? Like for a kicker, it's like that is like the thing. You get that 55-yard field goal. So when a wide receiver scores a touchdown, let's say a 10-yard pass, they catch a 10-yard pass, right, for a touchdown. That's around 8 points. When a kicker scores a 55-yarder field goal, that's 8 points. It's the same thing. Like they're lining it right up. I don't know. I think it's going to feel pretty good. We'll have to obviously see till the end of the season how it goes, but I think I really like that rule change. And then obviously we added two additional teams. We had a 10-team league, and now we're going to a 12-team league. The big change is before, the teams that made the playoffs were technically the best teams, right? That make the playoffs. That's not what's going to be happening this year. So we have two conferences. The Marvin right here, is the Marvin's the Waterboy and Little Giants, Dylan?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. The Marvin is Waterboy and Little Giants, and Whoreface is Remember the Titans and Rudy. Okay. So.
Can I stop you really quick?
Yeah.
I feel like we have 3 new people, and they need to understand why they're called this.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so our very first year, we had Marvin, who was a great friend, and he passed away. And so the reason our trophy is named the Marvin is in his memory. So when you win the trophy, you're holding the Marvin. So you are playing for the memory of him. And so after he passed away, we had I think Gary proposed the name change to the conferences. At the time, we only had 2, and we named it Marvin and Whoreface. And we're just going to keep that going. And I mean, obviously, if it gets proposed, to move it. But that's one I think that's going to stay for a very, very long time, because Marvin was just such an important part of the league. Mm-hmm. So that's why they're called that way. So I know it's really weird to see, like, why is it Marvin and Whoreface? And why is our trophy called the Marvin? But that's why. Yeah. And then there actually was a pre-proposal. I think Gary wants another honoring of him. He's going to probably propose that the 4 divisions are named after Led Zeppelin members, which was Marvin's favorite band. So that might be something to think about when he proposes that. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that's the name reason.
That's cool. Yeah, so we have the 2 conferences, the Marvin of the Whoreface, and we're going to have 2 teams are going to get first week buys, okay? And that's going to be the best team from the Marvin and the best team from the Whoreface will get their first week buy in the playoffs. If you win your division, you automatically get into the playoffs. And then there will be a wild card team. Obviously, both division members will be in the playoffs, and you'll have the next 4 teams in the division, whoever has the best, or in the conference, whoever has the best record and the best tiebreakers, if it comes to that, on the out of the 4 teams, they'll be the wild card playoff for that conference. And we'll do it NFL style, where it's one conference versus the conference, and the Super Bowl will be the best team in the playoffs from the Marvin facing up against the best team from Whoreface. So that's how it's going to be different this year. Is there anything else you guys want to get to?
Will, what do you think of coming in and just getting a mountain of information?
Well, it was good. The thing that we talk about the receptions. That's the biggest thing for me because I believe that hurts a lot of running backs. Per se, because it obviously gives tight ends a big bump. Certain tight ends, obviously. But the receivers, I don't think it really changes too much in the receivers, but with the running backs, especially like Eckerd, a couple others, I was really surprised at how high he went because of the rule. If you don't know the rule, then that's probably why. But at the same time, like, that is a big thing. That's why he wasn't as high on my board because of that. And I do understand that. Same thing with Barkley. Barkley gets a lot of short catches. But then coming into, as we changed, obviously I came in, it was 10, and then we expanded to 12, which of course I voted yes, because why am I going to say no after you just let me in, kind of thing. I'm not going to say no. So, expanding to that, it's great. I'm interested to see how this will go. Usually when I'm in a 12, we do 8 teams go in to the playoffs and 4, because they're usually the worst 4, so it's not even worried about them kind of thing. But see how it goes. I like my division because I bet in court in it. And I feel like he just sold everything he could. And I actually play in week 1, so it's even better in that way to see how his team's going to go with this crazy funk that he's got going on. But, I like my division with, it's Martian Law, it's Robert. He kept $25, so I'm feeling good about my division with the 2 people that I have. So I'm glad to be in that one instead of maybe another one, which I know there's a bunch of tough ones. That's for sure.
Are you already predicting a water boy victory?
I'm not going to go so far yet, but I want to see the first 2 weeks because I'm luckily get to start off against my division in the first 2.
Oh, okay.
So it's gonna set the table for what's going to happen. So that we'll see.
That's awesome.
Well, let me explain a little bit the thought process on why the running backs only get 0.25 points. Okay, so we are in a point per first down league as well, right? And that's one thing to keep in mind. When you have a PPR league, the running backs that are really good at actually running the ball, they get punished because if they're running the ball and not catching the ball, they're not getting points, right? So with the points for first down, the guys that actually run the ball, they get a big buff because every time it's 3rd and 2, they get the ball and they can get it past that line, they get an extra point, and it feels great, right? But what ends up happening when you do that? Well, Christian McCaffrey scored almost 500 points in our league last year, right? Because he does both. Can you imagine if Christian McCaffrey was doing that with the extra PPR, like with can you imagine how strong Christian McCaffrey is going to be? So that's why the reason why the PPR for the running back is a little bit lower than the wide receivers, because it's not, first, their catches are not as good as the wide receiver catches who are catching the ball further down the field. So they shouldn't be getting as many points, in my opinion, for catching shorter passes. And two, for a balance reason, it keeps the running backs and wide receivers points right there, right next to each other. If you look at the point difference between running backs and wide receivers, they're right there. They're right next to each other. I think it feels good.
And I think it just makes every owner in the league get to make their strategy. Because if all running backs are easily better, we all have to fight for them.
Mhm.
But now I can say, like, listen, I think wide receivers are going to have a better year. So I'm going to go harder on wide receivers. And it's not going to hurt you by not going nuts on a running back because you had to.
Right.
So, I personally, my draft strategy. I mean, we've already drafted, so hopefully nobody remembers this. But my draft strategy usually is wide receivers. I'm more of a wide receiver and running back because there's so many people that come out at running back that you never know, and they just shock you. So you might get somebody late that you're like, okay, great, they're going to be amazing. But I think the wide receivers, for the most part, they kind of stay the same for the most part. Michael Thomas is going to have 1,000 catches or whatever he's going to have this year. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's go down to this draft. Since, Will, you said you like your division very much, let's go ahead and start with the Waterboy division right here. And let's go ahead and start with your team: Midnight Rolling, Jet Flying, and Wheeling Dealing Son of a Gun.
Well, I didn't know I was going to have to change my name or not, because, coming in, people want to change your name. So I just decided to go with this. I'm a big gambler. And with my friends, we have a gambling text called the Degenerates, which actually Betancourt's a part of.
Hell yeah.
And basically, somebody gets a bet and we go against them, we call Midnight. And so that's why I've always been like Midnight. It happened on my bachelor party back in the day, and I was betting the not pass line against all my friends all the time and just yelling Midnight because I was winning. Because the guy could not, he kept rolling sevens. He just kept rolling sevens. But it was, so anyways, but my team, talking about that running back I missed on, Dax got Kamara, and it was at 49, and I said, go 50, and I was about to hit it, and then it went gone on me. So I think that was my big miss of the draft. But I'm excited with my my quarterbacks. I know they're the old guard.
Team,
What's that?
We can't see his team. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you can't see him. You can't see the team?
We're still on the SFL page.
Are you? Oh.
When you share screen on Zoom, you have to pick the screen, so you might have to choose to share a different screen.
Well, the stream, since I don't want to mess with the stream too much, we can keep going. You guys can just open it on the Discord, and you can look at it on your side screen if you have a side screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at the side screen. So, so I got my two quarterbacks, either old guard or Rodgers and Breeze. Breeze usually, it's going to help me this week, especially because Betancourt's got Thomas. So at least I have, a little bit if he starts throwing to him as far as touchdowns or anything like that. I know it's going to be a couple less points, but at least I'm going to be saved in that direction. And running backs, I actually was really big on David Johnson. I feel like he's got a fresh start. I think that, and reading a lot on, the crazy coach, I lost his name. But he's really wanting to have a running back that he can trust. So I'm thinking David Johnson can have a good year. Melvin Gordon's a reach. I know. I feel like he has something to prove. So I'm gonna feel that. And then Mac just fell to me because
that's such a steal.
I was excited about Mac. He just got passed up, and I took some risks with Michelle and Jackson because Jackson, being that real running back in that Charger system, that possibly he gets some. So running back, I feel uncomfortable but good. And then I feel like I got a bunch of guys that have something to prove. I think ODB is ready for his actual breakout. Last year he was hurt and just, I don't know, needed a watch at all times. I still understand that. But him and Juju, two guys that have down years that have their quarterbacks back. And I think I think ODB is really just going to be their number one target for the most part, because I know Landry's hurt for a little bit. So hopefully he gets those downfield balls. And I lost one last year in one of my money leagues where ODB caught like an 88-yard touchdown pass, lose by one. So I need to get him on my team. And then I think everybody
I think you benefit from quarterback upgrades for both of those guys. Baker has to get better, and Ben comes back. So I think just for that, their value went way up. And I think I think that's a main reason they're going to produce, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. AJ Brown, he had a great year last year. I'm hoping he'll have another good year. And then Waller, I'm big on Waller. I don't see the weapons that Vegas has on the wide receiving side, and he caught 7-8 balls almost all of the end of the year. And with the scoring the way it is, I think he's the number 3 tight end in the bunch, and so I needed to have him definitely. And then everybody said the Woods deal, that was the end. Nobody had any money, so I was able to take Woods. And Cooper Kupp's going to steal some things, I feel like, but I'm hoping not too many. And then actually, to tell you the truth, Will Fuller, I didn't really want Will. I bet on him thinking somebody else was going to go higher on. I really wanted Cooks. I wanted Cooks bad, and so I got them both. So anybody wants Fuller, you come out there, I'll take a running back for Fuller. I need somebody else just in case. But Fuller was not my wheelhouse, but he's one of those boomer bust guys that he could have a great year. And then I think going back to the upgrade, I think Ty is going to have a much better time with Philip Rivers throwing to him. And even though I know Philip Rivers' arm is dead, we'll see what Ty can do. Hopefully he's going to be healthy all year, and that's the key thing. So I went more old guard than the newbies.
So I was going to say about your team, it's all old guard guys.
But I just feel more trustworthy in the people that are there. And I know they're not going to. Drew Brees always has that offensive line that usually doesn't touch him. So I'm hoping that continues. But I'm excited about my team. I'm excited about the people I'm in with. So we can go over who we want to go over next.
What do you think
What
about
your team? What I like about your team is that, I think you're relying on the productivity of your running backs to see if you're going to be good out the gate. But you have so many pieces that can be moved. And I think you have a deep bench that can be moved for running backs in the future in case David or Melvin don't work out to the level that you wanted. So I think I like that there's a safeguard. There's like a safety net of your own team where you have flexibility. And I think that's what makes your team strong.
Personally, I think your team is a giant gamble. Like you have these 2 old school quarterbacks that can potentially just come up and be as good as they used to be back in the day. And if they do, then boom, wow, your team is scary. Because you look at your wide receivers, and just like Dylan said, I think that's where your power is going to be, is you're going to have a lot of trade leverage with these wide receivers on your team. Because you have 6 guys. Actually, I'm pretty sure all of the wide receivers on your team, I would feel pretty comfortable starting them. So you have
and they could
7,
start for a lot of the teams in this league right now, looking at everybody's wide receivers.
Yeah, you have 7 dudes that can start. I can easily see you making some trades. Again, I am iffy on your running backs, but you got Marlon Mack and Sonny Michel for so cheap that, and then also, like you said before, running backs get hurt, guys on free agency come in, you can pick them up with your fab, and, instantly you have another starting running back out of nowhere. So, yeah, I think it's really going to come down to how well you play for the rest of the season. If you can pull off some trades, I think you're a playoff team for sure. Let's go ahead and look at Ariel's team, your bud, your pal. It burns when I pee. So this is
no longer it burns when I pee. He fixed that.
This is the most interesting draft that there ever was. This guy's picked 4 guys and literally could not draft for the rest of the entire draft because he spent all his capital on these 4 dudes. Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas. Who's the other? Did he not have?
He said Derwin. That was it. That was $7.
Oh, so he spent his 3. He spent it on 3 guys and then spent $7 on Derwin Thompson and then couldn't draft. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. What do you guys think?
And he also didn't mean to spend $7 on Derwin Thomas. He was trying to bid $2 to bid somebody up, and he bid 7 by mistake.
Mathematically,
oh man,
he spent 90% of his budget on 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 90. Now, like I was saying earlier, and the whole like reason we do auction is so you can have a strategy. And I'm actually excited to see, because this is blatantly a strategy. There's no way you come in and spend $100
Oh yeah,
to do this.
yeah,
So
of course.
he took 3 guys that are first round picks. Like if you're doing a serpentine draft, those are 3 first round picks. Maybe top of the second if you're not valuing wide receivers as much.
And if you were to say a serpentine draft with our rules, you could argue that those would be the first 3 picks. Maybe Travis
Yeah, with
Kelce
our
could be
rules.
in there.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. So he's saying, I think these 3 guys can carry, 30 to 40 points a week, maybe. And that alone is 120, which if you looked at the projections, the top team in the league is going to score 145 points. So if 3 guys score 40 each every single week, that's enough to win games with a little bit of production from everybody else. Now, that's a perfect case scenario for the strategy. So I think it's a high risk, high reward, though, if those 3 guys can do what they did. And Chris McCaffrey seems like a guy that will play just as hard with a huge contract than he did without. So
yep.
I'm always nervous taking him because of injuries. I think he's a bad tackle away because he's used so freaking much. He's used so much. How do you not get hit hard or weird? You don't even have to get hit weird, hard. You just have to get hit weird, and something bad happens. So I don't like playing fantasy around injuries, but that's something I always think about with him just because of the volume. But I don't know. I want to shit on his draft. I love a strategy. Here's the thing. I love a strategy, no matter what it is, as long as there's a strategy there. I wish he would have planned the end better, though. If you know you're doing this, if you know you're going 90% on your first 3 picks, you have to have an idea of dollar guys that you want. And I think that element of the strategy was missing. So that, I think, is the downfall, is that there wasn't planning for the end. I think that's what he needed.
I think I would have loved this team if he didn't get Michael Thomas. If I had gone 50 for Lamar Jackson, and then gotten Christian McCaffrey, and then gotten a bunch of these steals at wide receivers, like Robert Woods for $10. Like, you can just look at Will's team and the bottom of Will's team. You can look at my team for wide receivers. Like, had he not spent that much money on Michael Thomas, he could have had some really good wide receivers, Christian McCaffrey, and a stud at running quarterback with Lamar Jackson, and just gone it from there. I think a player like Rob, who plays Fab like a lot, like he is constantly on the waiver wire. I think a player that can play the waiver wire a lot would do really well with this team. I don't know if Ariel is the guy that plays a lot on the waiver wire. We'll see if that's something that he's been like studying up on and he's going to do a lot of this year, where he's going to really go hard for it with the Fab. And I 100% think that's going to be the deciding factor. So I'm going to say this is not a playoff team. What do you think?
I mean, I agree. Like Dylan said, the issue is at the end, with the timing and everything, he just wasn't ready. He wasn't prepared. I mean, taking OJ Howard. I mean, I still don't understand why he took a backup tight end, in that system. I agree. They do run 2 tight ends. It is a Tom Brady kind of look and feel, but just for a bench side, he probably needed another wide receiver. He probably needed somebody else other than a tight end, I feel like. And then to have, basically Nick Foles and Haskins being one of your super flex, that could be, a big deal because he doesn't have anything behind it. So It's not like I'm going to take all these guys and have just maybe a quarterback at super flex. I feel like he's got to play a quarterback at super flex, based upon this team. So I think the Will Dissly is a great pickup. I feel like he could have a decent year, possibly. But having Randall Cobb right now in your starting lineup is kind of sketchy.
Yeah, it's rough, right? It's real rough. And then you think this is going to a playoff team or no?
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to hate on myself. So, but no, I think that I agree with everybody what they said. He's got to play the waiver wire. If he doesn't, then it's basically it's going to be a tough year to win maybe 1 or 2. Yeah. I mean, like you said, he could have amazing weeks with those 3, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah. And then the next team in this division is Rob on Martial Law. And he had a very interesting strategy as well. He left the most money on the table. He had $25 left after the draft ended. And I don't think he spent up for anyone. He did not buy any single star. His most expensive player was Nick Chubb for $36, and some people will say that Nick Chubb is not worth $36. Well, it's a very interesting strategy. I think he got some deals. Tyler Boyd for 5. I would call that a deal.
Hmm.
Raheem Mostert and David Montgomery, you got those pretty cheap. AJ Green for $6. I mean, AJ Green could be a star wide receiver again this year, but there's a reason why you went for $6, but that could be a steal. He's got these 3 really cheap quarterbacks. That could work if you pick the right 2 every week. But if 2
I mean,
of the
I was gonna say Daniel Jones and Mayfield were both on my list to pick
yeah,
up as a third quarterback.
same.
And I was really wanting to get them, but just didn't want to spend it when there was at the time the wide receivers still hadn't really hit.
Yeah,
And I just wasn't going to risk it on a third quarterback. But I do think that Jones could have a great year, and obviously I'm hoping Mayfield has a great year with ODB. But I feel like those are solids when it comes to a good risk with Burrow, because you just don't know with a new quarterback, with everything that's going on with COVID, and then of course you've got an offensive line that you don't know about. You don't know
yeah.
if they're going to be strong or not.
I don't know, man. If here's the thing, I actually like this 3 really cheap quarterback strategy. I would have liked it more if you had gotten one more. Um, just like one more guy, maybe like Philip Rivers or Sam Darnold, or like another really cheap guy, or maybe even Jared Goff went for 8. If you got like one more of these quarterbacks and had spent more of that fab and gotten like spent up for another running back, I would have really liked this team a lot more.
Mhm.
I just don't think this is a playoff team. It
Yeah,
feels weak to me.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Like, I was almost in a panic buy with Chubb at the time because I didn't have a top 8 running back. I'm not sure if he is a top 8, but listed as a top 8. And for me, I was thinking maybe I should go after him, and I fought with him before it, but he ended up paying it for it. I don't know. It's one of those things where does Kareem does Hunt have a great year?
Yep.
Did they give the ball to Hunt? Does he play more than just third downs? Kind of thing. So it is a risk to be your number 1 back when you don't have that number 2 that's too far behind you.
Yeah. What do you think, Dylan, about Rob's team?
Uh, I don't know. I don't I don't see a lot of production coming from maybe quarterback, running back, wide receivers. There's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I don't like his wide receiver core.
Um,
I
I don't know.
actually I kind of like his backup wide receivers more than the dudes that he spent money for.
I'm not the biggest supporter of wide receiver tandems on the same team if you don't start both of them. Which is weird, like having AJ Green and
And
Tyler
Tyler
Boyd.
Boyd
Like
and
you're
their
gonna have one on
quarterback.
the bench and you're gonna constantly like hate yourself while you're watching the game. Like, why didn't I start that one? But if you start both and one scores, the other one didn't, and
Hmm.
you're like, ugh. Because at least with running back handcuffs, like one's gonna get the yards, one's gonna get the touchdown. But in wide receiver handcuffs, it's like one could get double teamed all game and get nothing, and the other one gets everything.
Yep.
Or I don't know. It's just I'm not a fan of it. And then he has the quarterback handcuff there. Again, he's a Bengals fan. I can't fault him for that. But as for fantasy, just looking at the strategy, it's it's a lot of question marks. So having the extra $25 though, that could be huge.
The fab, yeah. And like I said, Rob works the fab, and he's a really good player. I don't think he's ever missed the playoffs, has he?
No, I think he's tied with the longest streak of making the playoffs.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of hard to talk shit about Rob because he's actually a really good
Right.
football player. So I don't know. We'll see it. Let's move on
And I
to.
will say, when he drafted David Montgomery, I had flashbacks to last season when I hated every living second of that man. So have fun with that.
All right, let's go to the Little Giants division. Dak likes cocks in his face. Victor Morales' team, and Priapism Boy, the King's Fool.
By the way, I will say, just because I missed being able to say it, as of right now, not a playoff team. It's going to take a lot of fab. He needs to use it. So right now, no.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry.
All right, let's start with Dak right here on the right-hand side.
He's running back heavy. He's
spent.
He did right well here, spending the money on 2 top-tier running backs. That are the workhorses. Latavius Murray might get some carries, but the goal line touches. But for the most part, it's Kamara all day, and same thing with Barkley. It's Barkley all day. So great picks
2
there.
2 first-round serpentine running backs. So not bad.
Definitely. Godwin's a great. If he's been hyped he's been hyped all year.
For good
reason.
Is he
going to live up to the hype? Yeah, I mean, throwing it. He always throws the slot usually. That's why Edelman and everybody else has been so good. So I think that's he's got 3 real solid, as you said, maybe all 3 in the first round, maybe 2 and 1, in the second round. So solid.
And you can't really say his wide receivers are that bad. I mean, the other ones, Tyler Lockett and Courtland Sutton, it's not that bad. It's his backup running backs is what I'm worried about. Who's he going to play in the flex is what I'm worried about. His second quarterbacks, Kirk Cousin or Drew Lock, is who's going to have to be deciding between. I still think this is a really good team. Even like with those, I think this is a playoff team.
I think this is one of those teams. It's going to have a high coaching percentage. If you guys aren't familiar with Flea Flicker, it grades your coaching percentage based on did you start the right guys on your team. I think this has a potential to be 100% because the bench is so bad that you're going to pick the right guys every time because it's so obvious. It's going to be tough to pick that one guy to fill the flex because whatever. But the rest are like set it and forget it.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean he just needs to not have injuries or crazy bye weeks.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. But he's a playoff team to me.
Yeah, I would agree. The next team is Victor's team. His biggest spend was Patrick Mahomes. Spent a lot of money on Todd Gurley and Aaron Jones as well. Spent out for Rob Gronkowski. I believe this is one of the Rob Gronkowski troopers right here, probably. Spent a lot of money for Justin Tucker. For kicking rules, that could be a big deal.
I like Justin Tucker for 15 better than I like Gronk for 19.
100%. Yeah, without a doubt.
Definitely. And, he's taking a risk with Cam. Cam was the same price as Rodgers that I got him for, and Cam could be really good. Again, somebody who needs to prove something. Running quarterback, if he's actually got legs anymore or arms anymore. So we'll see. But, he could be a solid, steal at $12 when it comes down to it.
If he had taken Rob Gronkowski money and spent it on wide receivers, I would say this is a playoff team. As of now, I don't think it is.
Is he a Patriots fan? Do we know?
I don't know anything about him.
Because there's so many Patriots and ex-Patriots on this team.
That's true. That is very true. That's probably it. That's probably what it is.
Like Gronk, N'Keal Harry, Julian Edelman, Cam Newton, Jimmy G. Yeah.
You guys have anything else to add about this team?
I don't think there's enough ceiling on this team. I don't think they can score high enough.
Patrick Mahomes has to stay healthy 100%. Has to have another godly season.
And Mike Williams, we don't know when he's coming back. So, what is that going to be for him?
I think he has a nice floor. I think there's a really nice floor on this team. Like it doesn't score less than 100, let's say, less than 110. but it's not going to reach 180.
I think he's going
That's
to
my
have a
thing.
really hard time picking his starting lineup.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think so.
He's going to be constantly playing the fab to like the waiver wire. He's going to be constantly playing the waiver wire to pick his starting players every week. That's what he's going to have to do.
I predict this for him. He's going to see Golden Tate go off for 30 points. He's going to start him next week. Golden Tate's going to score 5. He's going to see Edelman score 20. He's going to start Edelman next week. Edelman's going to score 2. That's what's going to happen this week. Every game, you're going to get lured into playing a guy because he had an outlier game. This team, if you were to graph the whole team, they're going to have outliers. They're going to have peaks, but it's all going to be really low average.
Yeah. And then the next team is Priapism Boy, the King's Fool. And he spent a lot of his money on running backs as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's got so much hype behind him, so much hype, and Josh Jacobs, which proved to be really good last year. Tyreek Hill is back, and he's obviously expecting Tyreek Hill to go off. And this is for the people that don't know, Gary is the league Chiefs fan. He's probably pissed off that somebody else got Patrick Mahomes.
However, I think Stafford's a much better pick for $9. That's huge. It allowed him to go a little nuts.
Yeah.
I would look at him as your trade partner. He needs wide receivers. He has running backs.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Very true. My issue is that I'm looking at his running backs. I don't see the only 3 that I probably want are so high in value for him that he probably wouldn't look to anything for a couple of weeks. I'd have to wait a couple of weeks.
I'd say a week
Definitely.
4 trade. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think Josh Jacobs. Yeah, that is a good one. And like I said before with Eckler, you just don't know how many rushing touches he'll get. If it's going to be more rushing, is it going to be more passing? Is it going to be just a mix?
Right.
Especially with Tyrod. But I see Dak, really being the solid person in this group.
Yeah,
between
same.
all 3, and
but
I think
between him and Victor and Rob and Ariel, one of them is going to get into wild cards, right? If we're going to say you win one division and Dak wins the other division, those 4 guys, one of them is going to make the wild card, right?
I like Gary right now.
I like Gary too. Out of those teams, I like Gary. So yeah, he's in my opinion, he is like scraping it into the playoffs.
It's Gary's key to victory is finding a 3rd wide receiver. I don't see a 3rd right now.
I think he can find a trade somewhere. Yeah.
Maybe Ruggs is the 3rd though.
Possibly.
Maybe.
All right, so let's go on to the Whoreface division. We'll be talking about Remember the Titans, starting with Sean Daly and how he feels he wasted $100 and changed his name because of it.
Is it that bad? Let's see.
Bridgewater and Tannehill as your quarterback.
All right, not a good start.
Where's all his money? His money is on Kenyon Drake and Joe Mixon and Devontae Adams. That's where all his money is.
Devontae Adams, I felt like $40 for Adams was a great value for his
46
money.
for Kittle.
Oh, and Kittle.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think his team is as bad as he thinks it is. His quarterbacks are rough, though. But I don't know. Ryan Tannehill and Teddy Bridgewater, they can pull it off.
Teddy. I think I'm a Teddy believer this year because of I want to see what he learned from New Orleans. I want to see if that actually does something because he has weapons. I mean, he's got a lot of weapons. Why can't Teddy put up points? Somebody's got to feed DJ. Somebody's got to feed Christian.
Yeah, he's got to make a trade for a wide receiver, I think.
Well, I'm actually looking at him as probably my number 1 is Breida going to be the Miami running back? If Breida is the star running back for them, that would be the person I would want out of the group because he's not going to get rid of Mixon. He's not going to get rid of Drake.
Right.
Probably. So if Breida's the one, I could probably get Breida and give him, Fuller. And I think that would help both of us in that perspective.
He also has a ton of wide receivers. He has so many wide receivers.
That's the problem.
But all his wide receivers are like dart throws.
Right.
Yes.
It's like,
I think because he was also at the end, he was picking three in a row, or it was him and Betancourt, one after the other, one after the other. So I think he got stuck with a couple of people he didn't really care for, but because he wasn't planned.
Yeah. I think if he's another one of those, I think on the same thing as Gary, he needs a third wide receiver that he knows is his third wide receiver, because right now it's a gamble for who's going to play behind Devontae and DJ. So
yeah, he's gonna have to be picking between a whole bunch of guys of which one he thinks, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. That really comes down to your individual skill as a player if you can pull it off.
I think Irv is a nice pick. That's my Viker homerism coming out, but Irv's really good. He has so much talent. So I think that's a nice pickup for a freaking dollar.
A tight end to throw in the flex.
Yeah.
And you can do that in this league. You can do that in this league with the tight end bonus.
Absolutely.
You can throw your tight end in the flex. You can't do that in other leagues. Throwing a tight end in the flex in other leagues is you're just dooming yourself. You can do that here.
So you think playoff?
I think it's a playoff team. I think it's a playoff team.
I think he needs one thing, but yes, I think he. I want to look at the other two teams, but I think he's on the fringe, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think we said it, but one thing I don't think people know about the name change rule. If you make the playoffs, you get to change the team name of a team that didn't make the playoffs. And if you make the playoffs, you can do whatever you want with your own team name.
Yeah, but this is the division of doom right here, in my opinion. It's me, Sean, and Chalupa, and I
You're
think
right. One of you guys is going to get upset.
one of us is going to get upset.
Yeah. Unless both of you guys get upset because you get beat up on by each other, ruining your record, and then somebody from my division squeaks in. Yeah. Because if you guys go 1-1 against everybody, and you automatically get 2 losses from your own division, like, I don't know.
Yes, this division is real rough. Let's look at Chalupa Batman's team.
Okay.
Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan for good money on both. She did not spend for running backs at all, right? She left some money on the table so she could spend a lot of money on wide receivers.
One interesting thought, she only spent $1 on one player. Everybody else was more than $1.
Yes.
It's interesting.
It is very interesting. It's very interesting. I like her 2 quarterbacks a lot.
Which means she didn't settle for anything.
She's going to have a major advantage on wide receiver than other teams.
Yeah, I would say she has the best wide receiver core, top to bottom.
Julio Jones, Mike Evans, and Amari Cooper. It's just gross.
Yeah, and Marvin Jones can put up points.
You could throw Marvin Jones in the flex, Emmanuel Sanders in the flex. She's going to have a lot of flex-like options. She can trade Julio Jones or Michael Evans for a good running back later too, and fix her running back problem.
If CeeDee Lamb goes off, that's huge trade value.
Yeah.
I think her issue though, as you said, is the flex is which wide receivers she can choose, because Sanders could have a great game, or it could just be them throwing it only to Thomas. Same thing with CeeDee Lamb, and Marvin Jones.
And again,
I think Marvin Jones is probably the best.
She doesn't need to pick to play those guys. She has those guys on the bench that she can use as trade. You see,
True. No, it's 100%.
Because her 3 starting wide receivers are so damn good.
I just don't know who her last flex would be.
She could package 2 big-time wide receivers for a big-time running back and be set.
And still be safe.
And be set.
And I like her quarterbacks, too. I like her quarterbacks a lot.
Her quarterbacks are great. Yeah.
They're fantasy quarterbacks. Like, they're not, like, quarterbacks you want to root for, but god dang, they are fantasy quarterbacks.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Her team is good. I
think that she would take the edge over Sean's team, definitely.
Yeah.
You put Chalupa in the Marvin division conference, she probably wins it all.
That's crazy.
And okay, anyone else have anything to say about her?
I think the question is second running back. So there's always that position of like that spot that you're trying to figure out what's going to go in there every week. I think her problem is going to be the second running back spot.
Yes. her biggest hope and dream right now is that Dalvin Cook really does end up not playing.
Yeah.
If that happens, Alexander Madison feasts, and
Jordan Howard could also be the guy in Miami, though. We don't know.
Yeah. All right. I think it's a good team. Let's go on to my team.
Okay.
I think this is like one of the teams that I am not very excited about having drafted myself. I still like it. I'm just not very happy with my running back situation. I think I might have paid too much money for Chris Carson and Antonio Gibson. It was kind of like panic buys because all the top running backs are gone, and I felt like I needed at least one. So I spent top running back money on two guys instead of one. And I don't know how I feel about that. I have Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt as my backups just in case. I feel like I got really good value on my wide receivers with Devontae Parker, Calvin Ridley, and Keenan Allen, and I spent $30 for them. And then Jarvis Landry in the back too.
I like your team, to be honest. I think there's a lot of quarterback question marks, especially with Keenan Allen.
That's what I'm unhappy about. I think I'm gonna try to figure out a trade for quarterback sometime this season because I'm not happy with my quarterback situation. I'm gonna have to make a trade for quarterback.
I think you got to steal in Deshaun.
I think so too.
However, losing DeAndre Hopkins, what does that mean?
Yeah. He's gonna have to chuck it. He's gonna have to chuck it to Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks.
Oh, now that you say it like that, I hate that pick.
Maybe I should keep Will Fuller. What am I doing? Well, I like Chris Carson was actually one of the ones I really wanted because I know that there's a lot of influx with Penny and I know Penny's hurt right now, but the new guy they brought in, but he just runs so hard.
And it's a team that wants to run the ball.
Correct. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, they are a running team that can throw, and so I think he's a great pickup. And he's not. I don't see him as too much as a 1B, kind of thing as far as running backs go. I see him more as a top 8 running back instead of a top 10 is what they're all saying he's going at. So I don't think you overspent too much comparatively to like the Kenyon Drakes of the world who had a great couple of weeks, and that could be, $38 is a lot of money on Kenyon Drake. So I think you got a steal when it comes to that, but I do understand your thought process there. But Gibson, everybody's so high on him. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's looking like he's going to be the next, McCaffrey is what they all say. So that could be really huge. I think, and then Fournette is a risk,
right?
Because you just don't know. But
exactly,
he could be amazing.
But I'm willing to throw $12 for a risk.
Oh yeah.
And I think you hedged. Like I know, like you said, you're not too sure about your Carson Gibson spending 49 combined, but I think you hedged properly with Hunt and Fournette though. So
I agree. And Reichel Armstead too.
If those don't work out, you have 3 solid guys you did not spend a lot on to help.
Yeah. It's my number one issue is quarterback. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick for $1 is going to end up looking like the steal of the draft in the end of the season.
Wow.
You don't think Tua's going to take him?
I don't think so.
That's the issue.
I don't think he is. I don't think they're going to start him. It's going to be really hard if the Dolphins start winning football games with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback throwing over 300 yards per game. You're going to have to be an idiot to bench him. I'm not going to say, and I don't know. It might happen. I could look like an idiot. But
on the flip side, if you're losing games, you don't want to start him because what's the point?
Exactly.
Just get another high draft pick to go with him and have him sit there and get coached up. I think it's terrible when rookie quarterbacks come in and play year one and then they're just behind the 8 ball because they're getting hit.
And right, yeah.
I think you're right. I think if I'm the Dolphins GM, I don't want to see Tua play. So regardless, Fitzpatrick's the quarterback for the year. If I'm the Dolphins GM, that's what I would want.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have a strong team. Maybe not having that one superstar wide receiver might come back and bite me, but I like the fact that I have choices to pick from, and with three solid guys that I did not spend any money on that allowed me to get a deep running back and the advantage of having Travis Kelce and Harrison Butker on my team. I feel like
Part
those
of
two
me,
are going to be a big
I'm
difference.
surprised it took me this long to bring it up, but I always look at teams and I wonder how much fun would it be to watch the games on Sunday. Let's say you go to a bar, COVID, regardless, and you're saying like, I need to find all the players on my SFL team. How fun is it to watch? And some teams, it's a grind to watch, whether you hate the team or you hate the type of offense they're on, stuff like that. But I think your team would be fun to watch. And I think that alone has some value in how you spend the $100 if we're talking about Sean's wasting of it. Like Deshaun's fun to watch. Calvin Ridley's, I've owned Calvin Ridley before. I loved watching him. Fournette, obviously on Tampa Bay, is going to be fun. I don't know. I just think it's and Fitzpatrick, of course, is the most fun player to watch. So I don't know. I think there's some value to that.
Yeah, I actually like my team. I wasn't. The more I look at it, the more I like it. Now that I got to see other people's team, and you know what I mean. Like when I first looked at my team, I didn't feel too good. But now that I got to look at other people's team and I come back to my team, I feel really good about it. So
yeah, during the draft, you're so focused on how bad you're doing, and then you have to sit back and say everybody else was doing the same fucking thing. Like everybody else was struggling.
Yeah. No,
and this division
like
is the toughest division by far, obviously.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be a fight for the top two. And as you said, they could eat each other up. Let another team in the below division actually take them. But I think Chalupa Batman has the best team in the division currently. But we shall see.
Speaking of divisions, over under half a trade amongst division partners in the season.
Under.
No trades.
No trades between division partners. No
Okay.
trades.
It's going to be interesting. Unless it's a really bad trade for one.
Yeah.
Do we veto trades in this league? I didn't even know that.
It'll be interesting. We'll have to watch for collusion.
I think veto is commissioner only, and it has to be obvious collusion, right? That's the rules for vetoes.
I give a lot of discretion to everybody to make up their own decisions. I will only ever step in, and I've never stepped in on something that looks stupid.
Yeah. It has to be like obvious collusion, because some people have it in their hearts that player is way much better than what the conventional wisdom of everybody.
It's funny, and not to bring in corporate law into this, but the courts give a lot of deference to boards of directors to make their own decisions, no matter how stupid they are. So I kind of I bring that in and I say, listen, I'm not going to regulate stupid, but I will regulate fraud.
Exactly.
So if I see that your team is obviously not making the playoffs and you're making a trade to a team that's going to make the playoffs, and it seems like there's money getting exchanged behind the scenes, then we're going to step in. But if it's just you being stupid, then
you can be stupid all you want.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. And that's why you are the lawyer and the judge of this court. Let's go ahead and look at the Rudy. We got Elderly Gangbang, the Breakers of Chains, and Hydroxy, Chloroquine, Kung Destroyers.
Oh, man.
Let's go ahead and start with Holden, with Elderly Gangbang here. Spent a lot of money on Derrick Henry. Big Derrick Henry believer. Don't blame him at all. Some money on Zach Ertz. I think that's a good idea. I think Zach Ertz for 30 is great value.
Another team where he didn't go insane anywhere.
DeAndre Hopkins, he's got a star at every position. I love his team. While I'm looking at Holden's team and I love Holden's team, something is wrong with me. This team is so good.
All right. Am I crazy? How can I throw ice cold water on you right now?
Am I crazy? I think this is the best team in the league. I think Holden drafted the best team in the league.
I think the Diggs thing is going to be. I think Diggs could be that big wild card. I think he's really good, and I still think he's the premier receiver on that team, other than Brown. But I just think DeAndre. They haven't been able to play together, so it's going to be really hard. But you never know.
I
He's
don't like
got a
it
really
when
solid
wide
team.
receivers change teams. I think it takes more than a year to get used to a new team for a wide receiver. So that's why I'm kind of like worried. But it's DeAndre Hopkins though. Like it's DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Oh, you know who? No, Larry Fitzgerald didn't even get drafted. I know he's a little banged up, but Larry didn't even get drafted this year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Stephon Diggs going from a decent passer to a meh passer, that scares me. It's in the cold. I don't know if I like Diggs there. I don't know if I like the second running back as much as being a starter. Rojo, who knows? Zach Moss, maybe. Naheem Hines, Tevin Coleman, maybe. I don't know. I think
running
Kyler
backs
Murray,
is-
DeAndre, Ertz, cool.
His quarterbacks are great. He's got awesome tight end.
Gallup
He's
Gallup
got to
is
start
a
at running
solid
back, and he
pick.
can try to figure something else for his second running back. I don't know, man. This team is so good. I don't know. You're gonna have to talk me out of this one. I think this team is super good.
I think it's
I
on the
just think
high
a
end
running
of
back.
average.
Yeah.
So you guys think
I
I'm
think you need a
crazy
running back.
for thinking
I
this
think
team is really
I
good?
think you're hyping it a little too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I I still think that the Dak out of all the teams so far is my number one so far.
Dak does have a good team too. Dak does have a really good team.
I know what you're saying is like that he has a star at every position, so he's kind of like safeguarding himself where if one guy's having a bad game, it'll get picked up by, somebody who's obviously is going to score a lot of points. But again, I keep going back to what is the position of need on this team? And I think second running back and third wide receiver are question marks on this team. There's no guarantee there. Stephon Diggs, Michael Gallup, I like that he spent only 14 on those. That's the saving grace there.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he only spent 14, Ertz with 30, Dallas Goedert could be in there taking some of those. TJ Hawkinson's good. I think bench down. If I look at bench down, I'm not as excited.
Mm-hmm.
Up there is okay. Second and third are those iffy spots. But again, I don't think the bench is strong enough for me to say lock him in playoffs.
Man, I think his team's good. Regardless, let's go on to Kyle's team, the Breaker of Chains. Spent a lot of money on Zeke. Spent good money on Miles Sanders. A lot of money on those 1-2 running backs. But I don't think he got as quite of a good deal as other people did on wide receivers. I think other people, like, say, Diggs and Gallup for 8 and 6, right? He got Terry McLaurin and DJ Chark for 8 and 6. Out of those two, which one would you rather have? I'd rather have Diggs and Gallup for the same exact price.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
I think the John Brown is huge though, for $1.
John Brown for $1.
Yeah.
John Brown for $1 is amazing.
I agree. Here's the thing on my sheet. Now I know he only spent $8, but on my sheet I wrote a big X next to Terry McLaurin's name. I wasn't going to touch him. The reason is just because I hate that offense and that quarterback. Mm-hmm. I think they're bad. I don't know if he's good enough to be able to just be open enough where an inaccurate passer can hit him. So
looks like we lost Will. I think his kids might have woken up or something.
Yeah.
We can keep going.
But I don't know. Okay, so we talked about this about Betancourt. He had a strategy. What was this strategy?
This strategy was to get a star in every position and then try to get steals, I think. I think he wanted to get two solid running backs.
His steal for me was J.K. Dobbins.
Let me try to throw some why I think this team is good.
Okay.
I'm not liking a super flex that much, having to choose between Mitch and Trubisky, so that's the downside, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Mike Gesicki for $4, he can put this guy in his flex and play this guy in his flex. Not a super flex, but his regular flex. Greg Zuerlein for $2 if the Dallas offense ends up being really good. He's got Greg DeLeg in there for $2. And then he just has two running backs carrying. You know what it is? I think he's so used to playing in so many different fantasy football leagues that have standard rules that he got locked into the running back strat. It might come up to bite him in the ass for spending over $100. Over half his team went into running back. I think that's going to
And
bite
you
him in the
got
ass.
and he's got the Cowboys. He's relying on Dak. He's relying on
Zeke.
Zeke. He's got it. They've got to produce every single week. And I had Dak last year, and he had an amazing first 12, but when the playoffs came, he wasn't anything. So, yeah, it's too much to rely on. I feel like when you have one team of guys, that you're relying on each and every week. So that's to spend $90 on those two players, great players, but to put that and put your draft on that is going to be tough.
And if you're spending that much and you know the bulk of your points have to come from these guys, his only set it and forget it guys are Dak, Zeke, Mark Andrews, and Greg the Leg if you want to count kicker. But like those are his only set it and forget it guys. The rest, he's going to have to make hard decisions. Allen Robinson, I don't think he's a set it and forget it guy. I don't think that offense is that good.
Each and every week, yeah.
He has nothing at wide receiver. Like he does not have any safe. Just put him there and forget. Like he doesn't have a set and forget on wide receiver.
Unless Chark does another thing like he did last year.
True.
Well, and they're down every single game by double digits, and he gets those crappy catches.
True.
Yeah.
Right.
And then last but not least, go ahead and introduce yourself to your team, Dylan.
Okay, so the team that has a really long name, and the reason he did this is because if I were to somehow win the championship, this is going to have to go on the trophy. Very cool. Very mature. Very mature. So yeah, my goal in the draft actually was to pick up my three favorite players, and that was Dalvin, Cam Akers, and Adam Thielen. Those are my three guys. Had to get them. James Conner was one I targeted, and I'm glad I got him for only $26. I think that was a really good price, especially with Big Ben coming back. I think that's going to help Conner tremendously. Plus, he was a little banged up last year. But I don't know. I wasn't going into the draft thinking I wanted Tom Brady. I wasn't. But then I saw Kyler Murray go for 26. It was somebody that went right before Tom that kind of put into perspective the quarterback value of the SFL. And I said, okay, I'm willing to go a little higher. And I said, listen, it might not be Gronk. It might not be Godwin. It might not be Evans. But Tom Brady's going to feed someone. And
he's going to feed everyone.
Different. Yeah. And it's going to probably be somebody different every week. But the common denominator is Tom Brady. So I think I went with the safe pick in that offense. I wanted a piece of it, right? I wanted something in that new, sexy Tampa Bay offense. And I said, I want the common one. And so that was Tom. And so I went with that. I really found guys I liked in the bottom quartile of wide receivers. And that's why you saw I didn't spend a lot of money on the bulk of my wide receivers because I liked a lot of names down there.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Deontay with Big Ben coming back. I love Debo. I love how hard he plays. He's fun to watch for me. Had to get my boy Justin Jefferson. Curtis Samuel I thought was a great pick for $1 because I like Teddy Bridgewater this year. And yeah, I'm a Dallas Goedert guy. I think that he's going to snipe and vulture some touchdowns while everybody's focused on, Ertz and stuff like that. So I don't know. I like my team. And plus, my big thing, if you guys haven't noticed, on Flea Flicker, you can play Taysom Hill at quarterback or wide receiver. Just saying.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That is sneaky. That is a sneaky one. That is, oh, man. Hey, what would it take for me to get Tom Brady off your hands? Deshaun Watson and who? Deshaun Watson and what? Deshaun
I'll
Watson.
Think about it. We'll talk after the pod.
I want Tom Brady, so get back to me.
Yeah, I can tell you that I watched one video of yours, Dylan. I watched one video, and I saw you were wearing Cook's jersey. And I said, I'm going to bid him up because I know he wants Cook. And I didn't want Cook, but I was going to make sure you paid for Cook. And feeling that, I thought Thielen was also the same way. I wanted Thielen, but I wasn't going to pay any more than you did. And I was like, well, I guess you're going to have it. But I wanted Thielen. And to tell you the truth, I really wanted Connor. Connor was on my board. I was going to go all in on Connor. He was going to be my number one, I felt like. And I just backed away. So I really liked your Connor Thielen connection. And I like Cam Akers because at that time I didn't have a running back. and Akers was out there, and I really wanted him as well. So I feel like he did really well on the running back side. Your wide receivers are good, but I think you're going to have a chance to have to pick between. You're gonna have those guys that are really good, like Robbie has a great week, and then Debo has a great week. So I think that's going to be your only thing that you have to really just pick between.
I agree. It's going to be one of those where it's like what I said. I forgot what team I said it for, but I'm going to see one guy do really well. So I'm going to be like, I'm going in.
Yeah.
And then he's going to screw me. And then another guy's going to do well.
That's how I feel about your wide receivers.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be struggling there. And that's why the only thing that makes me think that you might not make the playoffs is, I think if you were on the Marvin, you'd make the playoffs. I think it's the fact that you have to, the Horface division or conference is stacked. It's really stacked.
I think Doyle is a great pick. I really wanted Doyle just because of the new quarterback. What he usually went to always was tight end.
Yeah.
It's a great pick. And I think
with a
that's
dying
going to
arm,
be
he's going to have to go tight end.
Yep. I hope he can throw 10-yard outs. I'm going to go 10-yard outs to Ty, and then Ty can just bust a tackle and go. That's my goal.
You have a lot.
What do you think of the Jonathan
options.
Taylor? Because I went 2 guys on the Colts there.
You have so many options at running backs. You got to trade those off for some wide receivers, man. The two of you could probably make a deal.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely. I mean,
interesting.
I'm not going to take. He's not going to give up Akers, and I think that's the one I want out of all of them. He's stuck with Akers, kind of thing. And Jonathan Taylor and Mac are going to be the question mark of who's going to be the actual person that takes over. So, but no, overall, I think that I think your team is very solid between everybody in that league. I think, Elderly Gangbang is probably the best team, but I don't know if I can call this division or the Titans division of who's going to win it. I think those are two solid divisions where injuries are going to mean everything.
Yeah, I agree. This is a season where I think this was one of the first seasons where we looked at it post-draft and we said, there's going to be a lot of moves and we can see the moves. Are they going to happen and are they going to be the right ones?
Right.
And so I think that's huge.
Right.
Plus, again, 2 extra teams, that's 34 extra players that are not on the free agency. So that alone forces the hand to have necessary trades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you imagine 34 of these guys on this list that are in the free agency?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be nuts.
Yeah. I would love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, John Brown, if you went just to the bottom down, John Brown would be a free agent.
All the dollar guys. You can look at every single dollar guy that would be on the free agency.
I know Jack Doyle would be a free agent right now. He was my last pick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Taysom Hill was, but whatever. So before I gotta go, what's your pick for the winner of the Marvin, winner of the Horface, and winner of the Super Bowl? Doesn't matter. You can think about injuries. You can think about potential trades. You can think about the owner's skill. Who is it? Just give me 2 teams and a winner.
I would say for me, Marvin, it's probably Dak. And for Remember the Titans, I'm thinking Chalupa Batman. And then I would say I think Chalupa Batman. I really do think that depth in that. It's really going to be. I mean, I don't know. Dak has those 2 running backs that are just so solid. So I think that it's going to be a tough one, but I'd actually go with Chalupa Batman.
All right. So prediction, very cool.
What's yours? I got Dak. I got Dak winning the Marvin, and I have myself lucking it all the way to the championship. Not through skill, but just absolute bullshit luck. I'll find a way to stumble myself into a 3rd title.
Okay.
What about you?
And you're picking to win it.
Yeah, I'm picking to win it.
Oh, all right.
Just the whole way. I'm just gonna steamroll myself into it.
All right. So my pick is Gary gets all the way to the championship because the Chiefs are rolling. I get into the championship. And I lose because that's the most Dylan thing I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, guys, we are at an hour and 25 minutes in this podcast. It's a good time to wrap it up.
Post draft is always long.
Yeah, it is. Post draft is a long one. Anything you guys want to say before we get out?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I want to thank everybody again for the draft yesterday, and
Fun time.
think about those rule changes if you want to propose them, but have fun. Ingest all the content. I know it's a lot with podcast, video, graphs, video. But honestly, like the more you like buy into how fun the SFL can be, if you just take in all the content, the more fun you'll get out of it. So just enjoy it.
And if you want to like come on the podcast, hit me up. Well, love to have you, especially the new guys. It'd be nice to get a face to the names and get to know a little bit about you. All right, guys.
100%.
Love you. Have a good day.
See you guys.